All right, we're live. Giant Size Spectacular number 4. My name is John Hervey. Got my man David Green and my man Johnny Wales. How you guys doing?
Hey, I'm all right. It's been a pretty good week. Today is nice Friday. Have kind of the day off, I guess.
Start of a holiday weekend. This is a nice way to start it. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, definitely. The 3-day weekend is welcome. That is for sure. So, we're going to talk today. We're going to talk about conventions from every angle possible. Just because we've seen conventions change. We've seen the industry change, and it's just kind of taking a state of the union where we're at. But before we do that, Mr. Wales, I know you had some very good, some very poignant information for us.
Me? Where am I starting?
Well, you're the one that told us about the Fantastic Four.
No,
that was me.
My bad.
I'm following Alex Ross on Instagram, and I noticed he was posting these Fantastic Four pages, and what was it called? I'm sorry, I'm not prepared. I was gonna go to the shop today, everybody, but I just got bogged down with dad life.
Let me see what I can find.
I can't make it to the store like I used to, But like what's it called?
So I'm looking up Alex Ross Fantastic Four right now.
Full Circle? Yeah, Fantastic Four Full Circle.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. It's expected on I guess it's not out yet. Oh, I'm sorry. It's coming out. Yeah. Sorry, I'm so not up on everything that's coming out, people, because it looks like maybe the first issue came out. But no, I'm excited about that. I was gonna try to make it to the shop today, but I had to pick up my child, and then it's just like once you're done with that, you're like kind of done.
Yeah, you're like that's that.
Yeah, dad life. Yeah, that's like, and it's like nothing. It's nothing compared to mom life, obviously.
Yeah, you don't want to go there.
No, because I was gonna take him with me to the comic book store, and but then that's a whole day. Like, no, we can't get that, can't have that, So, but but also everybody, John and I are gonna try to do the convention tomorrow. We're gonna try to do the Long Beach convention tomorrow. So that was another reason I didn't go, because I was like, oh well, I'm already gonna go to the comic convention tomorrow.
And that is definitely right on point with what we're talking about. So I took your lead, went to Alex Ross's page.
Yeah.
Search for Fantastic Four Full Circle. This is very old school reminiscent to me.
Yeah.
And I like that. I mean, this feels like a Stan Lee Kirby adventure going into some crazy dimension. Just looking at the image.
Yeah.
Knowing nothing about it.
It looks pretty exciting, so I'm definitely want to check this out. I was pretty excited to see this.
So check this out. It says Fantastic Four Full Circle is the first long-form work written and illustrated by acclaimed artist Alex Ross, who revisits classic Stan Lee Jack Kirby story from the 1960s and introduces the storyline for a new generation of readers. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
No, this looks pretty good.
Because it definitely seems to have that kind of a feel, right?
Yeah, it's just it looks really incredible. I'm pretty excited about this. So I'm definitely gonna try to make it. If I don't get it tomorrow, I'll definitely go. I have a loyalty to my store, so I always try to get books from my store if I can.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely gonna try to get this over the weekend if I can. Or I don't know, maybe
Oh, I'm
maybe
out.
I can convince Celeste to go to Pasadena for a little while.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. This is
Maybe
a
I'll convince
gorgeous
her.
looking book, though, man.
Yeah, doesn't it? Looks incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool because this isn't like we're used to his full painted style.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I have one of his DC, I guess his DC books where it's like it's compiled of a lot of his art and concepts, and he had a bunch of concepts. I guess he'd pitched DC with crazy ideas, and I mean, I'm not gonna lie, man, I would have been buying all that stuff. It was pretty exciting stuff. He had all these different concepts for Batman and Superman, but like I guess he had one of them was called Bat Boy, and it was Batman, but he was like a teenager. And then he had some interesting concepts for Nightwing.
This is
Oh.
this is some really nice coloring to go along with
is it?
that
Isn't
that 60s 70s without it's really nice.
It really is, man. I mean, this isn't. I love this. This isn't what I expected when you said Alex Ross.
Yeah, this is he posted. I'm following him on Instagram, and I saw these, and I was like, I didn't know. I was like, oh, wait, because I didn't know. I thought he was just doing some concept stuff, and then I'm like, wait a minute, this is an actual book. So like, yeah, I want to get to the shop and get this. I'm pretty excited about this.
Yeah, this looks awesome. Good call on that.
Yeah, he always, he always delivers.
Yeah. We may have to do a stream about Alex Ross.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with that.
No, not at all.
He seems to find his way into every stream so far, I think. But
Yeah.
Well, him and John Byrne usually.
I know. I was gonna say that, but I'm glad you said it because I'm usually the one that's bringing him into the stream. So.
Yeah, he's well loved here. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So, just curious because we're going to be talking about conventions. Did you guys ever meet anyone like John Byrne at a convention? Because I didn't.
No, it's funny. I never. It's so funny because I never took advantage of all the different people that I would see at shows.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them have passed. I met Stan Lee a couple times and just chatted him up, and he was very nice, and he signed a couple things. And it was very funny to me that I was at my, I was at my girlfriend's salon. I was talking to one of her clients, a mom who was going to shows with her son, who he's a teenager and he loved the Marvel comics. And she said that they were getting signatures from Stan Lee. And I guess at this point, with all the movies, Stan was charging like $100 for a signature.
Ooh.
And I just thought, wow, I used to talk to him all the time when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And he would sign stuff for me. I remember, I think Dennis from the Comics Factory, we know, but we have to have on here eventually. Dennis has I want to say it's Dennis. Dennis will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he got sketches because Stan would do like a Spider-Man sketch of just like the Spider-Man head.
Yeah.
But I think that's Dennis that got that. And I was like, wow, that was really cool. But then I heard, with all the movies and stuff, he was charging $100 a signature and he was getting it. And I was like, good for him. I was like,
Stan's nuts. He's like, I got to get paid.
Yeah, better for us because we got it like when it wasn't like the whole thing. We got it like, well, it's just more natural. You just walked up to him and said hi. You know? But I remember going to a number of shows and seeing Jack Hervey, and I never stopped and spoke to him. And I always thought, oh, I'll come back later or whatever. And then he passed, and I was like, I never met Jack Hervey. Same thing with George Perez. I never actually.
That breaks my heart. I never met him either.
Yeah, and I used to see him all the time at shows.
Right. He was at shows, and he was there.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and he was very personable. You could walk right up to him, but and as much as I loved him, I never walked up to and spoke to him because I just never did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of surreal.
Yeah.
I met Stan Lee. I want to say it was probably in '05. A buddy of mine, because we were exhibiting at the time at San Diego Comic-Con, and a buddy of mine um, had the tickets to this Marvel party.
Oh,
So it was, so we went to this Marvel party, and Stan Lee was there. Yeah, so ended up talking, like me and Priscilla ended up talking with Stan Lee for a while. Really just nice, kind of exuberant dude. We ended up spending a bunch of time talking with the dude that played the original Sabretooth. Like in
oh, nice.
Yeah, that dude is big.
No, you know what's funny? I remember when they did a Pasadena comic convention, and George, it's so funny because George took it personal. He decided to represent the store.
Yeah, let's go, George.
He went all in, and we had a booth, and I volunteered. And that guy, Taylor Maine, right? That's his name, right? Because he's a wrestler.
That's right.
He came to our booth, and he took a bunch of pictures with us. And I remember that guy was so huge, and I thought it was a disservice in the movies to have him wear all that makeup because he had his hair slicked back and he had the mutton chops.
The mutton chops, yeah.
I thought this guy looks like Sabretooth. Yeah. But like when I saw the movie, I was just like, why do they have him wearing all that stuff? But like when I saw him in real life, I was like, holy cow, this guy's Sabretooth, you know?
Yeah, I like we were talking to him like this dude is big.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a really big guy. Well, is a really big guy. He was really nice too. He took a bunch of pictures at our booth, and that was a Pasadena convention. That was a long time ago. And I remember
at the convention center or something. Where was that?
Yeah, at the convention center. And there's that actress. She was in was it Dina Meyer? She played in that she was in Starship Troopers, and then she was on that Birds of Prey show. She came to our booth and hung out with us and took a bunch of pictures. She was so nice, you know.
Yeah. Dina Myers.
Dina Meyer, I think she played.
Okay.
She came over. This is so crazy because if it was now Instagram, we would have Instagrammed all that, But we just took pictures with her and they're buried somewhere. But yeah, she was really, really nice to all of us. That's always cool when you go to a show and someone's super nice.
That her?
Yeah, that was
from Birds of Prey.
Yeah, she was super nice, man.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. I remember going to Dragon Con back when it was in Glendale. So we exhibited there, and that was in the early 2000s also. And somebody else, I gotta find him, who you didn't know was as big as he was the dude who played Flash Gordon in like the Flash Gordon movie back in 1980.
Mm-hmm.
That dude is big.
Yeah.
Sam Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude was like legit. Like he was 6'3", 6'2". Yeah. I mean, like I'm 6 feet tall, so I'm not tiny. But like I'm standing next to the dude, and I feel really small. I'm just like, because he's not just tall, but he's like, he was built.
Just like solid.
Yeah.
Didn't he play football?
Well, he did in Flash Gordon.
Yeah. It's funny in a film, and I think David and I have talked about this, that somehow they, in that first X-Men movie, they didn't shoot Tyler Mane the right way, because I had no idea he was that big. And you're like, how do you not shoot a guy like that so he's even more imposing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the dude is naturally huge.
Well, that's the thing. That's kind of the problem where I find personally where the movies don't really translate to what the impact of the comics are. And because like when you look at the characters and they try to do this costume sometimes, like the costume, I guess, like the spandex or the leather or the latex or whatever they're wearing will just eat up all the muscles, and it's not going to show the definition. Because you look at a guy, like they said, Billy Zane worked out, like I think for more than a year to get in shape to play the Phantom.
For the Phantom,
Yeah.
they showed a little bit of him. He was jacked in there.
Yeah,
But
he's
they just-
jacked. But in the costume, he doesn't look that like jacked up. But like, and it's crazy because like I actually really do like that movie. You know, that's one of the ones one of the superhero movies I actually really do like. You know, like it's critical.
Dude, I liked it too. I liked it too.
Definitely, you know, Marvel has definitely made a point to make sure they show off all their superheroes' muscles at some point in every film. It seems like they got a topless shot, which, you know, those guys are going through all that work. Those actors have to go through all that work. You know, my wife's not complaining about those shots in every movie.
Yeah. Man, if I'd spent a year working out, I'm like, you better show something.
Yeah.
So it says here that Tyler Mane is 6'7".
Yeah, dude, he was huge.
And it's legit. I mean, like, I felt like a midget talking
he
to
was
this dude.
huge. Yeah.
You know? I was just like, man, this dude is huge. And the crazy thing is, like, I went back to the movie, and he doesn't feel like he's that big in the movie.
No, they didn't.
I'm like, why would you do that? You already got a dude that's 6'7". I mean, just.
I don't think they really utilize.
No other actor wants to look small in anything.
That's true.
Hollywood's got to deal with that, I guess.
Yeah.
No, but like, we see right now. Yeah, me and John are trying to figure. We did our tickets online. I think we can get in as pros because it looks like I have a pro badge. I can because.
So which show are you guys going to tomorrow?
Long Beach. So it tends to be one of the smaller shows, a little more manageable. We've tabled as artists at Long Beach. Almost
kind of broke below even.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows who we are.
When did you guys exhibit at Long Beach?
The last time we did it was 5 years ago, right, John?
Yeah, 2017. We did it. We were almost consistent for 2 or 3 years. I think we skipped a year, but it was like somewhere between 2013 and 2017 we exhibited.
Yeah,
with a break.
It was funny because Celeste, my girlfriend, she was pregnant at the time with our son. And it was really funny because she came to hang out with us, and she didn't really get it, you know. She kind of came in, she walked around, and then there was I forget the name of the wrestler, but there was a wrestler there signing. And when I said, "Hey, there's a wrestler over there signing," and when as soon as she looked at him, she knew who it was, and she got all excited, and she was trying to see how much money she had. So she run over there and she took a bunch of pictures with him. It was like the funniest thing because I was like, "Whoa," because you know. She really likes wrestling, which is awesome. Yeah, because wrestling, you know, all that stuff's cool, you know.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool, and it's like kind of derivative from comics anyway.
Definitely, yeah, and that's why I watch it.
Big old jack dudes, you know.
Yeah,
running around in their draws, the drama.
And like, I don't care what anybody's. I don't think there's anything fake about any of that, man. You could not do that stuff. Like, I mean, those guys are like. I mean, they have to be.
You got to be an athlete. You got to be an athlete. And there's some things that are just going to hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
No matter what.
They're going to have to do it over and over again every night, you know?
Yeah.
Or consistently for a couple months.
I've wrestled with my nieces and nephews, and just hitting a hardwood floor with my elbow, I'm in pain. So I don't knock any of those guys and the flips and the smashes they got to do. So
yeah. So no, but so we're pretty. John asked me last week. He said, "Hey, you know, Long Beach next week. You want to go?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then I was on the site about to buy a ticket, and I saw the section for the pro, and I was like, "Well, I think I'm a pro." So, because I could show check stubs, so I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do it." And then
entertainment industry counts, which is an interesting point for kind of what we talk about, how Comic-Cons have evolved, and and I was doing a little research heading into today, and I don't know if we want to mention when our first cons were, but I will, because it was 1987. I was I grew up in Chicago, and so it was the Chicago Comic-Con was my first con. And as a junior high kid, I didn't know any artists. I didn't know any writers. To this day, I don't know who I saw there or who, professional wise. And I know we were talking about that. Like, I didn't even like some of my friends knew a few of the artists and or writers and would say something. And I'm like, okay. I don't even think I understood who Stan Lee was back in the 80s.
Yeah.
I kind of maybe had an inkling because he kind of started showing up in some of the Marvel Entertainment stuff. And
well, he did. He would voice like the beginning of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and he voiced the beginning of the Hulk. So I was like, oh, that's awesome.
And Tommy is absolutely right. It does feel a little less about comics now.
Yeah.
Tommy, thanks for coming by.
Thanks,
so
Tommy.
I actually looked up the program cover for the Chicago Comic-Con in '87. Which it was I guess First Comics was the big new news, as they say.
Wow.
And it was the 5th year of the Chicago Comic-Con. So I remember having this program for years, and I kept it around, and it didn't travel with me to California, but I thought that was one of those really interesting things because I didn't know who any of those characters were at First Comics, and I think some of my friends got into it. Like it was their window, their little doorway to like, Nexus, and I don't even remember who who almost anybody else is in that. The Badger, I remember that seemed like a Wolverine knockoff, but I wasn't really sure, so I didn't dive into it. And I don't want to knock First Comics, but as a kid, that was kind of my take on that introduction for me.
That's fair. I think that's very fair. It's kind of funny. Go ahead, Dave. When was the first time?
The first con I ever went to was my friend took me. His older, my friend Chuck Jones, and he ended up drawing. Within the next couple of years, he was actually drawing for Image Comics. And I guess what eventually became the Shrine Auditorium show. They used to have that show at the Ambassador Hotel on Wilshire, and that's the first show I ever went to. And because caught the bus up from my house, and my mom gave me $20, which was a fortune because I'm 13 years old. It's 1987, and all I know and like. Chuck had gotten me into all, he got me into Byrne and George Perez because he exposed me more to the DC comics. And what happened was, it was really funny because when you got there, they had certain retailers that were out front before you even paid to get in. And it was like the $4 for $1 box, which blew my mind. And I remember I hadn't even gone in. I was in the $4 for $1 box just buying books, and Chuck had to grab me. No, we got to go inside. And I remember coming out of there with just like a stack of comics. Just like I got most of my Crisis on Infinite Earth run there.
Nice.
And at that point, Crisis had just leveled out. So they weren't. You go now. I don't know what cover price of the show would be now. I don't even know if you'd be able to find them like that. You'd get a trade, but yeah, I was able to find all those, and I found a bunch of the John Byrne Supermans. Because
was that show the precursor to the Shrine?
I think so. I want to say so.
Was that like a monthly show? Did that come did they held that every month?
I can't say for certain. But it was one of those shows that they just put it on, and then I think when it got a little bigger, it became the Shrine Auditorium show that we actually did go to. And this is going to get a little more adult, but it was interesting because I remember the last couple times we all went, me, John, Lance, I think my older brother Phil went, and I said Lance, right? Because Lance watches, but Phil, Lance, John, Sean, we all went. I remember there was a period where Playboy bunnies would show up, and it was so funny because they were so nice. They were selling magazines with them in it, and they were signing them. You weren't taking pictures of them yet because you not all of us are walking around with a camera on our phone. We didn't.
Yeah.
We don't have, but we would go and hang out with the Playboy bunnies and just chat them up. And like, I think the word that comes to mind more than anything was just class. They were like these really classy ladies. Because like, remember, some of the older ones would show up too, and like it was like everything like localized in one place.
Yeah.
Comics, entertainment, and it's just gotten bigger from it. It starts with comics and then everything else comes. Now the entertainment pop culture is a bigger part of it, because I do remember people dressing up, but not to the extent of now.
Yeah.
Because didn't they had costume contests, right?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
And San Diego did.
Yeah.
For sure. I remember the first time I went to San Diego. Was probably late 90s. Went with a buddy of mine. We just went for one day. The con didn't even take up the whole hall. I mean, you know how big the convention center is. It didn't take up the whole convention center.
Yeah.
And you could probably categorize people into just a couple of groups. I mean, you had vendors, and the vendors were mostly slinging comics or comics related stuff. You had fans, you had artists, and you had booth babes. So pretty much the chicks that were there were booth babes.
Yeah.
Because that would kind of attract you to different booths.
Also,
it was just comic book nerds, and then there was booth babes.
There were a ton of Klingons.
And yes,
Klingons everywhere. Klingons.
Yeah.
And there were different groups of Klingons. They would all converge on each other. Klingons.
Dude, there were people that were speaking Klingon, bro.
Yeah.
And
they would do the rituals and stuff. Yeah.
And also, I know another big one was Star Wars. The stormtroopers. They had troops, and they all had like different numbers. I know one of my friends was part of the 501st, and they would roll up in there, and there'd be a grip of them.
I think
it's funny because I while doing a little research, I looked up, and the LA Times had an article about basically chronicling the San Diego Comic-Con year to year, and in 97, I think, the attendance was 40,000.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a lot, but it starts ramping up after you get into the mid 2000s, because by 2004 it's 95,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And 2006 it's 123. So you think about, in 8 years, it's not much time for it to like go 3 times as many people are coming to those shows. And so I think that's about the time when we started noticing the shift of comics, really comic centric, to entertainment starting to take over.
Mm-hmm.
Late 90s is when they always had, if they had a movie or something, they'd always introduce it at Comic-Con. It just wasn't always the main focus.
You know what's funny is I never went to the what do you call it, the exhibit, the big what do you call them,
the exhibit halls.
The exhibit hall. I never did that. I've never done that.
The panels.
I never ever did.
Oh, the panels. Yeah. So the panels upstairs.
John, did you go to a lot of those when you would? I
went to, if I would pick and choose, and if I found like some subjects that I thought were really interesting, maybe I never. But the thing is, there are certain panels that you were going to wait half the day to get in, and I was just like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like especially so like once Iron Man came out, man, these movie panels, people would have to wait like half a day or more to get into the panel, and it's an hour panel. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, then they would come down, because we were, they'd come down and they, kind of tell you, oh, so and so was there, and You know, they gave this little reveal and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, you spent half your day at Comic-Con sitting in a line for that.
I mean, I think Marvel is funny because I remember didn't Tom Hiddleston come out as Loki?
Tom Hiddleston was awesome.
That's pretty cool. That's
Yeah.
really, really neat.
Everybody was geeking out over that.
That's
Yeah, I
cool.
saw
He yelled everybody to kneel. He's like, kneel.
Yeah.
I saw an image from 2007, and it's the Iron Man panel, and it's the craziest thing because Robert Downey Jr. came out essentially dressed in the Tony Stark suit with sunglasses, and it was the kind of thing that at the time I probably didn't take much note, but I look at it now, I'm like, that's not the way he dressed when he was walking around. I mean, that's technically he came in costume.
Yeah. Which is cool.
Yeah.
Well, which is, I figure if you're an actor, you got to figure they got to love all that, you know. If they could come out and be the character for however long, and people are just going crazy, that's got to be pretty exciting, you know, for an actor, you know. I mean, it's so funny because, like, you know, I think about working in entertainment in a way, doing storyboards where it's just like, oh, you just draw shots, you know. But it's just kind of like that part of it, you know, that's got to be pretty exciting, you know, because I just do grunt work. That's, you know, it's exciting for me because I like to draw, but like, someone looking on my shoulder would probably drive them nuts. You know, like, what are you doing? You know.
But I think, you know, I think you have to have a love for it, you know,
Yeah,
and it's like, I think especially kind of like when these movies started hitting initially, I think the actors were having a lot of fun. Everybody was having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, you just can't take yourself too seriously. It's like,
and that's the fun part about it is that's if the Avengers movies are fun because you could tell a lot of the actors are having fun, so they're fun to watch, you know. And I rewatched. We should save this for another movie, for a movie discussion. But I rewatched the Ed Norton Hulk on Saturday night, and I got to say that one really held up. That one's a lot of fun. That's a great
really
movie.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny.
Watch that again.
Yeah, watch it again. You know, and you see the contrast of where Marvel started because they didn't know, and where they are because they had no idea, because there was like literally no rules, you know. And like I think the film it's different than what they're doing now, but it still, I think, fits into the grand scheme of things. But it's a lot of, I actually really liked that film when it came out.
One of my favorite aspects of that film is that it seemed to pay homage to almost every iteration of Hulk, including the 70s TV show, because in a way it almost felt like a continuation of that more than, you know, setting its own, like, you know, its own separate reality. And so it seemed to be in a bit of, you know, continuity with that show, which as a kid from the 80s, I loved that show. I would watch it every week. And I mean,
I like that it opens, the origin story is all wrapped up in the credit sequence.
I appreciate that too.
Yeah.
And it was tied very, like you said, the origin was very close to the TV show origin story.
Yeah, definitely. You know, that one is I like that one a lot. That one's good. So yeah, I think I need to rewatch a lot of the different films, the early ones, and then I think we should do. But you know, it can't just be Marvel movies. Obviously, we got to watch some of the other stuff. You know.
No, I agree. But man, the Incredible Hulk TV show. I mean, this is a thing that's not happening today. I started collecting Hulk comics. I have a huge collection of the Hulk. You know, and like right on there it says like TV sensation. You know, Hulk. You know, I was collecting those comics like nobody's business. I mean, like I have like probably years of like uninterrupted run of the Hulk from there.
It's funny because I remember when when the one of the last Hulk specials they did, it had Thor and Daredevil on it, and man, we thought that was the coolest thing. We were like, wow, we couldn't believe. We're like, this is so cool. And I heard recently, I want to say a couple years ago, they were trashing that one on some news channel, and they were trashing it, or someone was trashing online. And I was like, they're talking about how bad it was. I was like, no, it wasn't, because we never thought reading these comics that they were going to make, multi-million-dollar special effects extravaganzas.
No,
just thought, that. I mean, because I know I'm on the minority opinion, but I love that the Spider-Man show, the live-action one. I've said it in the other shows, but
I love the live-action Spider-Man. People were clowning the live-action Captain America. I was all about that show.
Yeah,
I was all about that show.
We had no idea. It was just impossible to think that this would be a thing, and now it's a thing. Yeah. It's like, wow, It's like I went last night. I was trying to find Quentin a shirt, and I found him a Justice League shirt, and I bought it because it had Green Arrow on it. And I just thought, I said, what I would have had to do as a kid to get a shirt with Green Arrow on it.
Green Arrow? Okay, yeah. Green Arrow story. I thought I was tripping. The Super Friends actually had an episode, like early Super Friends, that guest starred Green Arrow. And I remembered that. But like for decades, man, I was just like, I know I saw an episode with Green Arrow. So then like the streaming services come on, man. Bro, I found that episode. Yeah. It exists. I mean, they only did one. What craziness is that? They had one episode with Green Arrow.
Yeah.
And that was it.
No, Green Arrow. I ended up really liking Green Arrow because of the Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil, Hard Traveling Heroes, and Green Arrow is just like he's letting Hal Jordan have it through the entire run, and it's not even fair. It's not even fair. He's just blaming Hal Jordan for everything. And I just like, and it's so funny because we got our other friend Nick. He loves Hal Jordan, and he's the one that pointed out to me, because I never would have saw it if it weren't for Nick, but he's the one that pointed out that it was just completely unfair that Green Arrow was blaming Hal Jordan for everything.
That was such an interesting thing, because as kids, I've read a little bit of those, and I've seen those covers more than anything, but it's an interesting thing to put two heroes who are aiming for the same goal but have different ideologies. Yeah. And about how they go about their doing it. And it was, the kind of thing where you could really, make a point while still, telling a superhero story with those two guys, putting those two guys together and kind of letting them go at each other.
And they made it work. I mean, it's like, other than both having green suits, they had nothing in common. And even their power levels, because sometimes I read that, I'll be like, man, Hal Jordan should just obliterate all of it.
Well, it's funny. It's like
talking all this mess. Just give them some.
It's like what they have in common is they're not Batman and Superman.
Exactly.
So they're like, okay, well, we got these two characters, and I want to say they're probably left alone because they just do these two characters. This storyline where these guys can just, they go on a cross-country trip and they have adventures, Very, very, very simple, very cool stuff. And I cannot find my trades of it, which is driving me crazy. So it looks like I'm going to have to rebuy those.
Yep. Isn't that how it works?
Trip to the comic stores in order.
Exactly. The trade gremlin grabbed them. It's funny. I've been reading. I've been getting trades of Invincible, and I've been reading it. Invincible is interesting. It's a little bit too gory for me in certain regards. But I appreciate Kirkman's storytelling. I appreciate how he weaves the story. I think he does a good job with it. It's funny that you mentioned that because one of my graphic novels disappeared. I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
Darn it. You know, I'm like, come on.
Yeah, it happens. And a lot of my stuff went away during the move because I have no idea where a lot of my stuff is right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, what happened? I went through all my boxes, you know. So there's like stuff I need to rebuy, which sucks because like a lot of it's out of print. Like, and if it's any of the European stuff, they're going to charge through the nose.
Oh, forget about it. Yeah, forget about it. Man, the first time, so I talked about the first time I went to Comic-Con. I remember exhibiting. This is around the time, I think it was maybe the last time we exhibited at San Diego. This may have been 09-ish.
Now, how many years did you do it?
Probably 4 in a row. And we did it with and Justin and Lori were awesome.
Yeah.
Exhibited with them, and we partnered up with some other folks here and there. But in that 4 to 5 year window, you know, the show changed dramatically. I mean, because you know, the first year we're like, man, you know, we're actually making our money back. This is, you know, then you kind of have an expectation we'll grow. You know, so year over year we'll grow, but year over year we shrank.
Yeah.
And like, I won't forget the last year we exhibited, and you know, they would have kind of like I forgot what they would call it, but like kind of an early bird on Thursday night for some folks to be able to get into the show and buy stuff. Well, they open it up Thursday night for the early birds, man, and there was this Galactus toy. I can't remember which company was selling it. People were dropping like 800, and this is back in like 09. People were dropping $800 on this Galactus toy. Okay, and I remember a couple people coming by the booth. It's Thursday, and I was, hey, you know, one of them was like, hey, yeah, this looks pretty cool, blah blah blah. And he's like, yeah, but he's like, I'm already pretty much tapped out. I'm like, the show hasn't even started. It's Thursday. He's like, yeah, I just showed me his Galactus toy. I'm like, this is a comic book, bro. You know, I mean, and I had individual issues. I mean, it's like $3 for, you know what I mean? So it's like the demographic changed, the buying patterns changed. People stopped going to Comic-Con for comics.
Yeah.
People were going there because, like, you know, instead of their dollars going to comics, you know, they're getting these expensive toys, or they're getting signatures because a lot of the cast from different shows were showing up. You know, it changed so dramatically just in like a 4 to 5 year window.
The funny thing about like the collectible thing is it's interesting how they can put collectible limited edition on a box, and then people pay through the nose. And what you're telling this company is, okay, you'll pay anything. And it feels like a lot of people just, you know, okay, I'll just pay anything. And I've been to shows recently where I've seen products, you know, like I go to Frankenson's every once in a while. I go to Frankenson's because I'm close enough now. Frankenson's is like a convention. It's not even a convention. It's just what would you call it? It's just a retail,
like a collectible swap meet.
It's like
how often is Frankenson's now?
Yeah, sorry.
How often is it now?
I think it's Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays.
Okay.
And they stay open for about stay open for a number of hours, and it's like a swap meet. But I realize because a lot of times the products, in my opinion, aren't moving because they're priced so ridiculously high that like people are like, well, stuff's it's not going anywhere. And I feel like the big companies realize people pay anything for this stuff, so they can price out a figure very, very expensive, and then that trickles down onto I guess these independent retailers, and they want to price it double than that, and then guys that are old like us, because I guess you got to be young. Older guys, I'm like, yeah, that's a bit much. You know,
and it's a strange time when you used to go to shows to get a deal.
Yeah.
And a lot of times now, the internet has leveled any kind of playing field, because you can look online and go, oh, okay, it's selling for X number of dollars. And so people then try to hold on to that, and then they know, well, if I can sell it online for that, why would I sell it for less in person?
Yeah.
And so it's a hard. It has been the last 2 times I've been to the cons. It seems harder to find any good deals, and
Yeah.
Old comics though still seem to go.
Yeah, you can still get your comics, but if collectibles, toys, which I've never really been into. So, but I did get into models pretty bad last year, but that's over with because I realized they just take too long for me. I could be drawing, I'm like, I don't have time for that kind of thing. But I was buying models for a while. And then also I have a son, and he's into the stuff I'm into now. So I can't even put the stuff together because he's just going to want to destroy it already. He's already like eyeballing, because I have a huge stormtrooper I'm putting together, and he's eyeballing it right now.
He's like, I'm tearing that thing up, man.
Yeah, and I'm like, look, dude, it's like, I'm going to display this, and that's it. And he's like, he wants to get to it, so.
Yeah, but that leads to a whole nother, topic of just, young folks and conventions and comics and, what that's looking like. You know, I've got 3 kids, and, my oldest, he'll watch some anime, plays video games, he's not reading manga or comics.
Yeah.
My middle boy, during the summer, we were making pretty frequent runs to the shop. He was picking up books, picking up some Spider-Man stuff. But now that school started back up, he's like, I'm already reading during the day. I don't want to read. I'm like, I don't want to tell him what I used to do. Is like, I would just read the comics and not my schoolwork, but I can't really tell him.
Yeah. That's how I learned to read. I learned to read from comics because I'm dyslexic, so I had to have teachers like actually sit down, teaching assistants and whatnot, sit down with me and work me through reading, and they found comics work the best, you know. But that's pretty much how I learned how to read, was reading comics. And then I just once I got really into it, I was always reading comics. And it is interesting for me to hear someone say, I've heard people say that they would just rather watch the movie, and I just go, I'm like, wow, because I remember hearing that 20 years ago with The Lord of the Rings, when people were like, oh, I'd rather just watch the movie. And I'm like, man, you were really doing yourself a disservice.
It's like you are, big time.
Yeah, because the books are really something else. And it's like, it's funny, like it took, and I feel, I'm ashamed. I feel bad saying this, shame. It took me literally 30 years to finish the Infinity Gauntlet, because the first couple issues of George Perez, and then George Perez was off of it, and they brought in Ron Lim, and Ron Lim is a completely competent artist. No disrespect to Ron at all. That guy can draw. But at the time, 30 years ago, he wasn't George Perez. And then I just stopped reading the book. I recently read and finished the entire thing, I want to say about a year or so ago. And I was amazed. I was like, wow, this is an incredible read. I mean, and the thing is, they beat Thanos, because he snaps everybody away. Then they got to figure out a way to bring everybody back, but they got to beat Thanos. And everyone in the Marvel universe has to get involved. They all have to come down and fight Thanos. And and it's just people, it's just panels and word balloons. And for me, for my money, for my experience, the movies with all the CGI and the acting and all the sound effects didn't even come close to like how they resolved it in the Infinity War.
Yeah, the in the comics that it's amazing the levels of what constrains. Like, it's amazing that they've made movies with so many characters in it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that original series, they could leave the Avengers out at some point and then go straight to the cosmic level, most powerful beings in the universe to deal with it. And so it there is something about the way they had the solution they end up going with is so much more in ways creative, because it isn't a simple brute force. You can't just beat him with brute force at that point. You have to find a way to convince him almost of how they're going to win it. And so no spoilers to it, but and it was that kind of funny thing where we kind of talk about movies, and at some point the actors need their screen time, they need their face time, and so
right.
You couldn't have a universal move, a film in the MC universe without all those actors. I mean, you're not just going to have a bunch of CGI cosmic entities fighting Thanos, but they did, I guess, okay with what they had.
Yeah, I think. No, you're good. You're good.
No, I'm just agreeing. I'm just agreeing with John. Because it's like, it's just a different thing. Books, movies.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm doing myself a disservice with Dune, because I'm one of the people who didn't like the David Lynch version. I've never been able to get into that version, but this last one that came out, I really, really liked. But I have not read the book, so I can't sit here. And my exposure to Dune is movies, so I know I'm doing myself a disservice by not reading the book. Even though, I mean, I've tried to read the book, but I need to read it now older, because I wanted to read like some adventure book, but Dune is so much more beyond that, because it's more about environment and what do you call it, different environments, and there is adventure elements to it, but there's also intrigue and political.
Yeah, it's kind of a geopolitical story, really.
Exactly. Thank you. You've narrowed it down for me. Sorry, I sounded stupid trying to describe a book I didn't read. But exactly. It's more to it than just I'm wanting an adventure story. So, and that's the thing with Lord of the Rings. When you read it, it's not just a bunch of characters sword fighting and firing arrows and stuff. And it's a lot of deeper levels to it, But like, it's different mediums,
Yeah. Well, I think that's the funny thing for me. It's like the different mediums. It's understanding that, and not in a begrudging way, because I mean, I know that there's a ton of bitterness out there about stuff that's being made. For me, not in a begrudging way. I've come full circle, and I realize the power of comics. There are things that you can do with comics that you just can't do in other media for a number of reasons.
Yeah. Exactly. And the thing is I think what people are missing, here's the most important thing people are missing, because there's a lot of stuff that I can't get into. And like, we're in an insane time when it comes to content now, because none of it's ever going to go anywhere again. It's not going to leave. I was telling John the other day, like, I saw that on the iTunes store they were selling Robotech. They're selling the 3 seasons. Each one was $5, and I bought Macross and I bought the Mospeada, and $10. And like, because I loved them when I was a kid, and I love them now as an adult, and that's like the one thing that's on in the background right now as I was working all week on storyboards is Robotech. And like, I understand that a lot of people are very, very, they're very hard nosed when it comes to, they draw a hard line. Oh, they're, they ruined it by translating this, that, and the other. And it's a different thing, because if that was your first exposure to a lot of it, it's gonna hold a special place in your heart,
Exactly.
And that one, definitely. Did you buy it, John? Did you end up getting it?
I did end up. I went ahead and bought all 3 seasons.
Oh, nice.
Nostalgia still catches me as much as I complain about everything. The new stuff that's nostalgic offends me on some level, but actual old stuff is where my heart lies. So I still have to fall for it a little bit, but
Yeah.
That was.
No, I absolutely love Robotech. You know, it's funny. I have old DVDs of it, and it's like early days of digital, but it's all grainy.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, man, am I gonna have to upgrade and buy
Yeah.
That was actually one of the things we used to hunt down at cons was, copies of Robotech, and the worst part is they would have like a VHS of like 5 episodes.
Yeah.
And then you were like, where's the rest of it? And they're like, well, that's all I got. So you're like, maybe I'll buy that and get that for now, and then I'll come back and look next time I'll have more.
Right.
You know what's crazy? Think about how insane that was. The guys or shows being able to sell stuff they recorded on VHS.
Oh, dude,
that's crazy. Because you could
crazy bootlegging.
You could never do that.
It was a recording of its original airing, and
and they'd have like some janky cover on it.
Yeah.
Like either some janky screenshot, on the cover or something like that, man. Yes.
A bad photocopy. That was.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts that they were able to do that.
That was a different world. That was an absolutely different world. And it's like you went to the shows, and it was like a swap meet.
Yeah.
You're like,
that's kind of like what Frankensons feels like now.
Yeah.
Because I was there a couple of weeks ago, and a guy had something. A couple of months ago, and the guys had something that I wanted, and I went to buy it, and it was so crazy because he just told me he didn't take. I don't take credit cards on anything that's on sale, and I was just like, they got an app, dude. And I was just like, I'm not trying to go to the ATM in this place. I was like, no. Hold on, I hear something brewing. I'll be right back. I'm very sorry. I just want to make sure my child is okay.
Yes, keep the child safe. But Robotech, loved it. I mean, I can remember going to shows looking for whether it's Robotech or Macross, Los Piata, Southern Cross stuff. Just trying to find, anything.
Yeah, and that was, and it was always a crapshoot because like we said, you get home and realize the guy just recorded it, and sometimes they would record it like on a camera on the television, and it wouldn't even be lined up.
Dude, I got a recording like that wasn't well lined up, and the funny thing too is you get like the commercials.
Yeah. So
but I was watching it.
If you were lucky, they did a little bit of editing, and you get a half a second of a commercial, and then another commercial.
Yeah. It's an absolutely different world. It's funny. I was telling my son, I forgot. I think I was telling him about when I met Stan Lee back in the day at the Marvel party. My son's like, well, Dad, did you get a picture? I'm like, bro. I'm like,
sorry.
I wasn't carrying. Oh, you're good. I wasn't carrying around a camera at the convention back in the day. He's like, oh, you should have gotten a picture with Stan Lee. I'm like, dude. I'm like, you carry a phone around now that's a camera. That wasn't the case. I wasn't going around like Peter Parker with a big old camera.
Yeah.
Then I would have had somebody else need to take a picture for me too.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing is like you think about we literally have tricorders in our pockets, like Star Trek,
Yeah.
It's an absolutely different world.
Hello.
What's up? What's up, Hex? Man, we were talking some good old. We've been talking conventions, but we were also talking just a little bit of Robotech, just some of our fond memories and some of our fond memories of watching bootleg.
Yes.
Bootleg stuff that we bought from conventions back in the day. Yeah, it's a different world. Absolutely different world. The convention scene. I mean, I used to go to conventions to buy books and maybe look for some other cool stuff, like I was saying, like Robotech, related things or anything I could get my hands on. But people don't go there for that purpose anymore. People don't go for the purpose of buying comics.
No, it's like I want to see if I could find some cool stuff tomorrow. Give myself a little budget, you know.
Yeah.
And I want to see if I can find, because there's a couple guys. Hopefully, there's a couple guys there that I remember, because I know they're LA-based guys who have like some cool stuff. So, and then I'm a sucker. I have too many. I'm a sucker for movie posters. I don't have enough wall space for all the movies posters I have, and like I'm in the process now trying to figure out a decent framer, someone who'll just frame it without me breaking the bank, because yeah, man, sometimes you're like, these frames are way too expensive, you know. But I guess you got to think of the frames in terms of like furniture, you know.
Those classic movie posters. There wasn't a standard size, or the standard sizes were way different than they are today.
Yeah,
so,
they were bigger,
yeah.
Because bigger. I think I can't buy the standard size on I think 2 or 3 posters I have, because the movie size that I have is literally 1 inch, and I have to have an entire custom frame made, and it's like I think it like the bottom price is $200, you know.
Golly.
Yeah, but like I really like.
And you paid $30 for the poster.
Actually, one of them I got like a really good deal on, because it was just because you know, one of my favorite illustrators was doing these posters, and I was on eBay looking up the posters. If I looked up his name, the people who owned the poster knew, oh, well, this guy is this great illustrator. But if I looked up the name of the movie, I could get the poster for $15. So yeah,
That's hilarious.
yeah, right.
$200 frame for a $15 poster.
Yeah,
You do what you got to do, man.
my walls will look so cool, right?
I know.
It'll look good on the wall.
Yeah.
Well, gents, we have passed the 1 hour mark, so I think it's time for us to wrap up. This is a really good episode. Enjoyed talking convention stuff with you. We could go another couple hours easily.
Yeah. We will
So
try
much.
to have pictures for everybody next week. Sorry, it's hot here, so I was drinking out of a cup in some of the shots. You know, I know that looked crazy, but it's so hot right now.
Hey, the heat is a real thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely next week we're gonna get some feedback from David and Johnny going to Long Beach Comic-Con. Get some photos too, and hear some stories.
Yeah.
And we'll have some other topics to talk about too.
All right. It's nice to see everybody.
All right, everybody. Peace out.